Hello, beautiful bookish people. My name is Hannah, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, Olivia, for
Hi.
episode 3 of Reading Booktubers' Favorite Books.
Yep, that's me.
So, Olivia, I was wondering if you could give us a little intro on yourself, maybe your channel, and just like a short synopsis of Beartown, because that's what we're discussing today.
I'm Olivia Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophe, and I talk about books on my channel. I love to just talk endlessly about books.
You love books?
I know.
That's crazy. Me
Difficult.
too.
And we're here to talk about Beartown, which was one of my favorite reads last year. And Beartown is about this small town, which is like almost permanently winter. It's a very ice hockey town, and the town really relies on ice hockey. And something significant happens that shakes up the town and makes them reconsider their values and what they stand for.
Perfect. I couldn't do it better myself. So I always feel when people talk about their favorite books, there's sort of like a personal connection between like the book and the reader. Do you feel like you have that with Beartown, or if not, why do you like it so much?
I think in terms of why I have a personal connection to it, it's probably having to do with the fact that I write as well, because
Okay.
when I was reading it, I was just like, it's written so well and the characters are created so well. I'm definitely a character-driven reader, and I try and stay away from having way too many characters and too many perspectives. But Beartown is like everybody gets a point of view, everybody gets their moment in the sun, but it never feels overwhelming and they all feel so realistic. And I just was admiring that while I was reading the book. That's the really thing I like about it.
Right, so you like the multiple perspectives. What's really good about this one is it almost seems like Frederick Brockman kind of presents it very unbiasedly, so it allows you to put your own opinion in it. Is that like another aspect that you like?
Yes, I love that. I think it's very hard to go for neutral writing
Yes.
when you know you've got your own opinion. And I feel like at the same point, you can see what he's trying to do,
Mm-hmm.
and he's trying to make you reach a certain conclusion, but everybody still gets a fair say at the same time.
For sure. There's like a right and wrong, but like everybody makes mistakes essentially, which is like
Definitely.
really cool. Also, you recently made a video about spoilers.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you consider a spoiler and what you don't? So I'm curious what your take on this book is, because like there's a pretty big thing that like happens like pretty in the middle. So would you consider that like a spoiler?
So I don't tell people what it is. You can probably see from my synopsis of this
Yeah.
that I haven't mentioned it. But if you read the synopsis of the actual book, it's
Mm-hmm.
in there. And that's why I advise people not to read the synopsis. And yet I still advise them to look at the trigger warnings.
For sure.
I think it's really important. I think when I recommended it to you, I was like, do you want the trigger warnings for this book? Because it's quite a big, it's a momentous thing. And I think it's important to warn people about it because I know a lot of people have had experiences with it, but at the same time, I don't want to give it away myself. So I feel very difficult when it comes to recommending this book.
Mm-hmm. So like what is it about spoilers? Because I love spoilers. I'm like, tell me everything, because I'm like, oh, we're all gonna have a different reaction to it. So like why do you like try to avoid spoilers? I'm just curious.
I think it's just because I would like to go in not knowing as much as possible. I like the surprise. I like not being able to guess the plot twist.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty good at picking up clues. So the more
Mm.
I am to not guess it, I don't know. This is a hard question. So I like I like not being able to see where it's going to go. And I want to give that opportunity to other people as well. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like my dislike of spoilers is less about me receiving them and more about
Mm.
me not wanting to give it to other people. Because I have received spoilers before and still really love the book regardless. I don't think spoilers ruin books, but I would not like to give other people spoilers, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely have like a couple friends who are like, tell me all the spoilers, and then I have a couple friends who are like, tell me nothing. And I think it probably just depends on like you as a reader. I was talking to someone about spoilers, and they were like, if somebody tells me what happens, I'm never gonna know if I'm ever gonna be surprised. And I was like, that's a good point. Kind of bringing it back to Beartown, there's like a big discussion of community in this book. And like one of my favorite quotes is like, what is a community? Is it like a total sum of choices? So, what do you think community means to Beartown, and what do you think your definition of community would be?
I think community in Beartown is all being driven to one goal. And
Mhm.
that's the definition of community I would give at the very beginning, because they all share this one goal and it's really what drives them. And they have to kind of rethink, is that the correct definition of community? Do our goals need to switch? And I would also say that's my definition of community, but the goal can be a lot looser. It doesn't have to be so action driven. It can just be a goal where you exist within this goal. I would say, like, for example, in the Black community, I would say the goal is to be able to live happily and live with equal rights. And those goals can just include being yourself and expressing yourself as who you are. And that's enough for you to fit into that goal. And it's not so action driven, if that makes sense.
So you think like the goal of a community is to like be together in unity.
Yes.
Okay, so with that like kind of definition in mind, would you apply the same things to the booktube community?
Yeah, I think so. And I think the booktube community is always working, or at least now it's working towards really unifying. And what does it mean to unify? And I
Mhm.
like seeing that in the book community and seeing us try and improve that all the time.
So that kind of leads me into this like next question with like all these different perspectives. What do you think the goal of the story was? Because like you get the high school burnouts, you get like the old hockey players. Like why do you think that was necessary for this story?
I think it was showing how everybody has different experiences with the same thing.
Hmm.
And that's why everybody reaches different conclusions.
Hmm.
And it really showcased the gray area when it comes to the choices people make. So I would say that the point is to show that everybody has different perspectives on the same thing, and they will take different things away from it based on what experiences that they've had in life.
Hmm.
But it's still about what they do with the information that they're given, regardless of their different ages, their different experiences. And that's what I would say it's trying to do.
So there's like this really big like obviously sports theme to Beartown, and there's always like things happening based on like if they win or if they don't win. Because like the closest thing like I've ever had to like this feeling of glory is like I don't
Mm.
maybe theater. Did you ever have like that like sense of glory that the hockey team is like talking about and striving towards?
Basketball. I played basketball for a number of years.
You did.
I did, and I was on the basketball team in a competitive, like we played competitively.
Hmm.
So when I was reading this book, I was like, oh my gosh, I remember the basketball team, and all these memories came together. It wasn't quite like it is in Beartown, but
Good.
it was still like the same glory kind of feeling.
There's also like this like missing it too. Do you ever get that like that sensation of like
I feel that a lot. I'm always like, should I do basketball again? And then I'm like, how? When are you going to do this? But I do miss it sometimes. I like the feeling of a team. I think that's a
yeah,
great feeling.
for sure. So like you could kind of like get the sense of like what Frederick was like trying to talk about. Do you think
Mm.
that that's another like kind of personal connection to this book, that this like team aspect that you haven't maybe seen in other books before?
I would say definitely. I don't think I've ever seen a book that goes so hard, or I haven't read it personally, that goes so hard on the team sports aspect. And that's why I was scared to read the book, because I don't know anything about ice hockey. So I was like, ice hockey book, that's not for me, but I managed to connect to it in different ways.
Mm-hmm. No, that's so cool. I didn't know that about you. So, what I think this story does really well is it tells like a very specific story through like details. So, that's my favorite thing because I always think like the details are what people remember.
Mm.
So, what is a scene that like kind of like sticks in your mind that you remember like a detail or a specific moment?
I think one of this, okay, I'm gonna have to try and do this without spoiling anything. I think,
It's okay. I mean, you can spoil it. We can put like a little spoiler warning. Spoiler warning.
okay, okay, spoiler warning. One of my favorite scenes happens towards the end,
Mhm.
and it's with Bobo's character when he talks to his dad and they actually have a conversation about what's been happening lately. I'm still dodging spoilers, even though I gave the warning. But he has a deeper conversation with his dad about what's going on, and he kind of challenges some of the concepts of masculinity that he's previously been presenting. And I'm a sucker for character development, and that scene like was the accumulation of his character development, as well as it's showing such a significant change based on the
Yeah.
events. And I was like, that is just the summary of this book in a scene.
For sure. What I really appreciated about this book is like Frederick, what just we're on a first name basis. Frederick would like establish this idea like in the arena, and then like there would be some other aspect in the book that would like parallel it. So like there would be the scene when they were like I think at the semifinals where Kevin was trying to make a goal with Amit, and like there would be like the same sentence would happen during like the sexual assault scene. It would be like Kevin needed 2 seconds and he only got half. And then like when Amit kind of came into the room during like the sexual or the rape or the sexual assault, it was like the same sentence wording, and I was like, wow, that is so good to like parallel these two scenes. Like that I think had to be my like favorite part, and it didn't happen just once. He would like use the team or like some sort of like locker room talk in the same phrasing in like different like scenes, and I was like, that's good.
It's genius.
Whoa, that was like really good.
It just goes to show how like toxic cultures or like locker room culture, it goes to real life. Like even if it's a controlled environment, it does go into your real life, and it's just done in the writing style of Self, which is amazing.
Yes, because like I think it's like David who, because there's like it's an omniscious voice that's narrating the story where he like made a rape joke in the locker room, and like the narrator says and he regrets that like to this day because of like he knows what's gonna happen, you know. I was like, whoa, it's really something for sure. So obviously now that we've kind of gotten into like some spoiler territory, there's like an aspect of revenge or vengeance in the narrative. What I'm basically asking you like is like what do you think of Maya holding a shotgun to Kevin's head? Is do you think that like a form of justice was achieved in Beartown?
See, that is the part that I discussed the most with people. Like, were her actions right? Would you do the same thing? And in terms of would I do the same thing, I can never say that yet. And I've not been in that situation, and I just felt like I couldn't judge any of the characters for the choices that they made in what they did, because I don't know, I feel like Maya is so justified in wanting to make him feel that fear that she felt. Yes, but I don't really like guns for starters. So it's just like, oh, but I don't know. I also anticipated it coming with the beginning. I was so sure it was going to be the best friend who was holding that shotgun. But I don't know. I appreciated the fact that she had a line for herself and she was determined not to cross that line. But I don't know what I would do in that situation. I don't know if I approve or if I disapprove, and I don't even know if it's my place to approve or disapprove.
Oh, I was gonna ask, what do you think of like the sort of like flash forwards that like happen in that scene? Because it like flashes forward to Maya, flashes forward to Kevin, because like Maya literally shows up on his wedding day to like instill that fear, and I'm like, okay.
I think it goes to show that she didn't even need to do the first level of fear, because he carried that fear all the time, all his life. And the flash forwards were very interesting because it shows Kevin having a life beyond what happened. And I always think about that when it comes to these stories. It's not really something we see. We do hear about the victim's life beyond what happens, but not so much about the person who done it. And I really was struck by the scene where Kevin's with his girlfriend in the future. And I was like, what would it be like to be that girlfriend and to be told that news? And we don't see how she reacts. And I would have been very curious
to see. But that's like another like really cool thing that Frederick does. It like he gives you like enough about the scene to then allow you to put your own interpretations into it. I thought she was like gonna commit suicide at first. So I was like relieved when I was like finding out what was actually happening, because I was like gonna be so mad if like that's what happened to her character, because I would have been heartbroken. I would have like probably started crying. But yeah, I don't know if it is my place, because yeah, I've never been through that situation to know what my mind would do, you know?
Yeah, it's just so hard to imagine. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like the closest I can get to imagining is by reading this book.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it really pulled on the emotions with empathy.
I know. It's like that unbiased opinion, but it just like strikes at the heart, you know? But this is an interesting question that I just thought about this morning. Do you think the town is the main protagonist?
I definitely feel like the town is its own protagonist. I would even say the main protagonist. The fact that this happens at a small town where they have nothing but hockey to rely on, like there's nothing to distract them from the fact that they've got a toxic culture that they need to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
And everything is depending on whether they can solve this or not. The economy,
Mm-hmm.
the
True.
lifestyle, absolutely everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think it's very significant that the town is cold and ice hockey is chosen,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like there's a lot of cold characters in this one who
Mm-hmm.
need to learn how to warm up, how to feel things.
I love a weather metaphor for sure. Give me the cleansing with the rain. I'm here for it. But I didn't even think about that, but you're so right. How like the town is so like based in winter and everybody's so cold and frigid to especially Maya. Her whole story like broke my heart, which I'm sure it was supposed to, like how everyone treated her in school, and like threw stuff at her and wrote stuff on her locker. But there was like one really beautiful scene I think between like Benji and Maya where Benji like walks into the bathroom where she's like crying and Maya kind of just storms off like, oh, but you're friends with him. And Benji just says like, you're a fool if you think I'm still friends with him. And I was like, because that was like his stance. There was like such good depictions of like gray morals because it's like you see it with like Kevin's mom, like you have that unconditional love with your son, but then you know what like a terrible thing he did. Then you have it with Benji. It's like he has that like conversation in his own mind where it's like, can I still be friends with him, but he crossed this line into something I can't justify. So like there's all these different like ethical questions of like, what do you do when you like grew up with somebody and then, you know?
Yeah, it was. I just found myself often frustrated
Mm-hmm.
with the characters because I wanted them to do certain things, the right thing, what I believe the right thing is.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you just emphasize with why they've done what they've done. I
Mm-hmm.
felt that way, particularly with the mom, as you said, Benji, and also Amat quite a bit. I was like, I want you to do something, but also your circumstances, I understand. And
Yeah.
I think by it being such an inward thing, like all these emotions and thoughts, you're really seeing them, it really drives everything home. And that's why I'm curious about the TV series, which I have not watched, because I
Right.
feel like so much of this is internal.
For
Do you
sure.
think a TV series would I'm asking you the questions now. Do you think a TV series would capture it well, or?
I've seen it happen before. Like I love Normal People, and that's one of like the most like internal struggle novels I think you can ever read, and like loving the adaptation. So I think it is possible because there is a lot of like outward actions. Like you have like Amit standing up to the board, you have him taking the money from Kevin's dad, you have like the games, and I would be so curious to see if they like parallel like the games to any sort of like thing that happens outside like we were talking about. I think that could be done really beautifully.
That's true. Now I
Mm-hmm.
want to watch the TV series. I should get on that.
So kind of to wrap it up, we'll leave with an easy question. Why would you recommend this book?
I think this book is incredibly important
Mm-hmm.
for opening conversations on this subject matter, raising awareness, and also demonstrating the ways in which people need to do more and do better.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I found this story absolutely heartbreaking, I think one thing where I take away hope from this novel is that we have a male author writing this
Mm-hmm.
and writing all of these perspectives. And it just gave me hope for, that breach of understanding that can happen. And I think this book can help with it. And that's why I recommend it to absolutely everyone.
Well, thank you so much for talking about it with me. I love your insight. I love your mind. Everyone, please go check out Olivia's channel. She is great. I love her reviews. She has some of the most creative videos I've seen. So I will definitely be linking your channel down below, and do yourself a favor and check her out. But
Thank you for having me.
For sure, you're delightful. I've always wanted to talk to you, so I feel very cool right now. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy it, and I will see you next time. Keep reading and all that jazz. Pretty cool. Frederick Bachman, good job.
And I think, hang on, I forgot, what was the question? Where am I going?
It's okay. I'm the same way. I can also, we'll restate the question. Well, I think I already asked you this question. Never mind.